Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Produce Your Freedom. Today we're going to continue talking about strategies for dealing with tragic chaos, and this episode is going to be about verbal de-escalation techniques. We'll probably call that verbal judo, and you might have heard that term before. It's not verbal grappling with someone, but try not to think of it too much as a conflict or a fight. That's ideally what we're trying to avoid. I know this might not be helpful in all of those situations, but there are certainly situations that can be personally tragic to us that start as simply some sort of conflict that maybe can be de-escalated before things get too crazy or too hairy. So it's not going to work 100% of the time. Use with caution. Again, it's only for extreme emergencies, although this kind of can help in our day-to-day life of just trying to discourage people from thinking they're a fit person to negotiate with someone who's threatening to kill themselves by throwing themselves off a building or something like that. Certainly if you're the only one, great, but call 911. They're professionals who actually know this stuff better than I can communicate in 5 minutes, believe it or not. All right. So the idea behind de-escalation techniques as a whole is that the way we talk to people who are in some sort of stressful or volatile state, let's say, impacts how they continue to process and think about things, and we can either wind them up or we can keep them where they are, or we can hopefully slow them down a little bit. And we're going for the slow them down thing here, which leads right into the first and perhaps one of the easiest techniques, which is simply to speak more calmly and slowly. Now, you don't want to do this in too much of a patronizing way. The way I did it is probably just fine. You don't want someone who's completely amped up and you are completely being as monotone as possible. It doesn't mean you have no empathy or feeling to your voice, but slowing the pace down. When people get energetic and flustered, they tend to speak faster, and simply by using a calmer, slightly quieter, slower tone, they're not getting that same energy back, which kind of feeds into this loop that leads them to kind of escalating versus de-escalating. Next big one here is to not say calm down. Do not simply order someone to calm down. It almost always has the exact opposite effect, and there's a reason for that. The reason is it makes people feel like many times that you are negating their feelings. They're feeling one way, they're being angry, outraged, frustrated, and they have a reason to be, and you're saying calm down, as if you're saying that's not reasonable, your feelings aren't founded, that doesn't count, kind of thing. And that's not where we want to come from. We generally have a good intention when we do that. It's just ineffective because the person on the receiving end doesn't necessarily perceive that we're trying to help. So another way we can kind of go about doing the same thing is try to calm a person with sincere help. If they feel that we're trying to help and that's why they should maybe be calm, then that's something that might help them. Saying something like, I can tell you're frustrated and I really want to help you out with this. Start by taking a deep breath and let's talk this through. Probably have a more positive result. But people are already mad at a bunch of things, and then they become mad at you for ordering them to do something. So you want to avoid that command tone, that calm down. That phrase is just like, doesn't work. Never works, pretty much. Then when they start explaining, or you get them to hopefully slow down a little bit through your calm speech and your empathetic remark about, let me help you work through this and all that, you want to prove you're listening through clarifying questions. A lot of times people still don't feel that they're being understood, despite the fact that they're telling you all this stuff and they're trying to explain what's wrong. And one way you can help that is by kind of restating what they just said in the form of a question. And so it sounds like it really upset you that blah 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 blah. And the person will generally respond with yes, which is also good. We can wrap in asking affirmative questions here, and that's questions that someone will probably answer yes to based on what we already know. When you put someone in the state of saying yes versus no, it puts two people in agreement with each other rather than opposition to each other. If you're saying I'm mad that I can't go to the beach and blah blah blah, and you say, oh, so it sounds like you'd rather go to the mall, they're going to say no, and they're going to be rightfully mad at you because A, they know you're not listening, and B, why would they want to do why would they want to do your thing? So you're kind of asking questions. You're not really doing anything critical other than getting them to slow down and making them feel as though you're on their side and you're listening. So that's awesome. This works particularly well with people who will listen to us, who are somewhat close to us, or who we're kind of able to converse with. Sometimes you try all of these things and people are being belligerent, and perhaps you've directly done something that did anger them. In that case, another helpful acronym and technique is remember to LEAP, and that's LEAP, which is listen, empathize, apologize, and propose a solution. So the listening thing, you can, first of all, literally just shut your mouth and listen, so you actually do know what they're saying, but you can kind of prove that through the clarifying question still, or clarifying statement maybe. You want to empathize with them. I'd feel that way too, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry that happened. I'd definitely, I'd be pretty angry too. Apologize. I think I actually did that within the last statement when I said, I'm sorry, I'd feel that way too. And then propose a solution. So this can kind of help in a lot of situations, particularly with strangers. Let's say you've got a kind of belligerent person let's say you're at a bar or something. You have a belligerent person, you bumped into them, you didn't mean to, you turned around, they were right behind you, and you kind of nudged them with your elbow and they spilled their beer, right? And let's say it's kind of, he's doing the macho man thing and he's pissed and he's trying to, prove his machismo and make a big deal out of this thing, and he's angry at you. It takes a lot of the wind out of people's sails if they don't actually have anything to fight against. It's, but it's some sort of Eastern thing of kind of maybe it's not Eastern, I don't know, that in a storm with the wind blowing and everything, that the mighty oak that's rooted well and is not going to move anywhere, maybe if it is going to be damaged, will be completely uprooted, right? And that's when you're kind of standing like a brick wall. But the young saplings actually do better because they bend the way the breeze is going. So we're not trying to be that brick wall which results in someone getting uprooted. We're trying to let things kind of just roll over us a little bit, and you got to put your ego aside here. I know it's tough to do sometimes, especially when someone gets into that mode. You don't want to appear that they were able to bully you. It's a pride thing. But so we listen, we empathize, we apologize, and we propose a solution. So we have to know what it is we're apologizing for, which means we have to listen. But a simple one with that spilling a beer example would be, you've heard their concerns. I'm sorry I spilled the beer, blah, blah, blah. I'd be pretty upset if that happened to me. I know I might have, messed up your shirt. I'm really, really, truly sorry about that. Let me at least buy you a drink. Fine. You might have just turned what could have been, a nasty punch the wrong way to the head, or maybe even getting the cucka kicked out of you by him and his buddies, so to speak. You might have just turned a conflict that went south with people being violent and people getting hurt and people getting thrown out and ruining a whole evening into something where you just had to suck up your pride and, shell out a few dollars. Even if that doesn't work, I'd then ask what would. That's another option that you have. All right, well, what can I do to fix this situation? And, if they're going to ask to go outside, there's a limit to everything. If they ask you to, let's step outside and blah, blah, blah. Repeat the process. Hopefully it works, and hopefully someone else sees the conflict coming over and the bouncer comes and helps you out. Part of what you're trying to do is buy time. So try that. Calm tone, slow speech. Don't say calm down without, doing it in a different context anyways. Prove you're listening by asking clarifying questions, even if you don't really need to. Ask affirmative questions so that you get that yes and people agree with you and feel like you're on their side. And then, of course, the LEAP acronym. Listen, empathize, apologize, and propose a solution. Hope that helps you at some point in your life with staying out of trouble, staying safe, and remember, produce your freedom or life will produce your chains. I'm out.